Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's good to see all of your smiling faces. Thank you for joining me today. We're really excited about this bargaining campaign coming up. It's good to see your faces again, as I said. It's a Thursday evening. Can't wait for Friday. We're going to wait just a little bit, see if we can continue to let some people in. We have some late registrants registering. But we're going to give them about a minute or so to join. So this call today is going to be hopefully interactive, drama-free. We're going to have everyone have an opportunity, or try to get as many people to have an opportunity to have a discussion today. I'm going to give a small presentation. This is a presentation that I gave to the board of directors last weekend. So you guys get to see a little bit about that. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, let you answer your questions. Now, there will be a 2-minute time limit, and you will hear a little alarm in the background letting you know when your 2 minutes has expired. And I will say, be respectful, please. I will be respectful of you. Please be respectful of me. We don't all have to agree on the same things, but we can have a respectful conversation on our disagreements. So just give me a few more minutes. I see a couple of hands up already. Jill, you want to go ahead and let me see if I can do this. Unmute yourself and ask me a quick question.
Well, first off, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
I'm very glad. And sorry, I'm about to pop over to my DLC meeting in a moment. So this is why I put my hand up real quick.
Okay.
But we'll start at the beginning. Hi, ma'am. How are you? We can do this. And a little disclaimer. You should put me on your team because I don't think they want to argue with me because they'll lose.
You have been recruited.
Thank you, ma'am. Because what's the worst person to negotiate with is an old mom. An old mom. And yeah. Well, anyways, what I was going to say, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I went on that team because I am the worst person to negotiate with, but I am the best person to take with you to the flea market. You want something on sale? Take me with you. I will do it. But this pay, they need to get a clue. I mean, really, you want me to jump in there and start knocking some heads around verbally and say, you guys need to get a clue? Why would they want to stay here when they can go to the private sector? Even for an administrative assistant position, they get paid $30 an hour, depending on the company. So take me with you. We'll educate some people.
Well, we got your name down, Jill. We're putting together all sorts of action teams and regional organizational committees. And so we definitely have your name down. We will be reaching out. We are going to need those people to be really, really active in this contract cycle this year in order to get the demands that we're making. So someone will be reaching out to you. How about that?
No, honey, if you want me to join you, I'll be your right-handed woman. We'll take them and knock some heads around verbally and say, look, we're doing it this way. You have A or B, and that's it.
Got you down.
Thank you,
Jill.
ma'am. Have a good day.
You too. Eddie? I'm sorry, hold on just a second. There you go.
I'm going to thank you for letting me speak briefly, Irene. I just wanted to bring up the topic of the office reorganization. I know some of the local offices are being relocated to different locations. And I just hope when they do that, they have in mind public transportation and bicycle pedestrian access for folks who don't drive from work to the union office, whether it's after work or during the weekend. Make sure that, those factors are considered when they make the decision to relocate offices. Because it's going to be a pivotal part of, not only our mission statement as a union, but our pivotal part of our bargaining, that we have people, when we're able to meet in person after this pandemic surge, hopefully, to congregate in a location that's convenient to as many members as possible. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate that. So with that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can do that. They tried to train me on this earlier today. So let me see if the training took. I'm going to try to share my screen with you guys so that you can see the presentation that I would like to give. So bear with me. Let's see if I can get this going. Come on. I don't want to do that. Can you guys see that? Yes, no, maybe? Just nod a head, put a thumbs up.
Looks good.
All right, fantastic, wonderful. So this is a presentation that was put together for the Board of Directors. I want to just go over it. The first thing is the vision for our 2023 contract campaign. This vision was developed by myself and Annika Walls, who you know is the VP of Organizing and Representation. And we also met with some of our staff, our team from the contract department, the Union Resource Center, our research department. So it was a collaboration among all of us that we actually put this together. Now, I'm sorry, the vision is to inspire, unite, and activate our members, staff, and the public through our union values to dream big, win now, and for our future. So the words inspire, unite, and activate, those words were chosen pretty much intentionally. They represent the action that we are going to need during our contract campaign. So we always want to make sure that we are inspiring our fellow workers. Hopefully, you know, this presentation today will inspire you as well. We need to make sure that we're getting involved in our contract campaign. And as leaders, as many of you are, we're going to recognize that there remains a lot of apathy in our membership. But we want this contract campaign to overcome that apathy and to inspire all of our members to get engaged for the demands that we are asking for or we're demanding this year. We also want to make sure that we're united, right? I've heard several people say over my course of having the conversations with you and going to the District Labor Council visits that we need to be united. This memberships have to stand behind our common cause of winning this fantastic contract that we all want, right? We need to acknowledge that as an organization, you know, we haven't been really united this past few years, few months, but I know that we can all get behind this fight for this contract to win the big gains that we want to win. We also want to activate our members, and that includes everybody on this call today. That doesn't just mean inspiring you, but actually inspiring you to take action, making sure that these actions that we do lead us to the proposals and the end results that we want to see at the end of our bargaining cycle. So action looks like, you know, possibly attending a worksite meeting or, you know, talking to or attending the town halls. The survey, the bargaining survey will be going out really, really soon. So you want to make sure that you're attending the survey. Purpling up, that is something that we have always done. You should always continue to do. Every Wednesday, wear your purple, whether it's a purple scarf, a purple sweatshirt, purple sneakers. Some people decorate their cubes in purple. As you see, my background says Local 1000 SEIU because we do a lot of things over Zoom or Teams these days. So we can actually put a background in on Wednesday or every day if you like, to show that there's solidarity among the members. The other thing you can do is you can join solidarity breaks. And we're going to have to kind of visualize or revisualize how this looks for many of us working in a telework or virtually in a telework area. But we can actually come up with some things, and maybe tonight we'll have some of those ideas. You guys will share some of those ideas with me. That gives us some different ideas of how we can take action to move our proposals at the table. So we need everyone to do something this contract season. So across the states, you see people fighting for their voice on the job. We don't have to fight. We actually have one. We have a voice and we have to use it. So in order to win the contract that we want to see and the contract that we deserve, we're going to need lots of actions to show the state that we actually mean business. So this also applies to all of our staff. You know, everyone has to be on board with making sure that we're moving this contract this season. Every department plays a role in our contract campaign, from processing union leave to processing payroll to making sure that they're getting the information out regarding these types of meetings, etc. Everyone takes a role in this. So we know that our contract is going to have a ripple effect on the economy for California in general, and generally the public. So, but we're going to need their support as well. So in order to accomplish this, we have to be better about sharing the important work that we do, the essential work that we do as state employees. We need to know that we need to let them know that we are very, very active in what we do. I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of serving the state. So we're going to start taking some stories in. And if you have some stories that you would like to share with us, please do. Recently, there was one in our union update about our Unit 11 Transportation Engineering Technicians, otherwise known as TETs. There are bridge inspectors. And the article was published in our November union update. This is about the diving that they do. So many of us perform this amazing work for the state of California, and we need to make sure that it stops being unnoticed, that people understand that we are vital and we are essential to keeping the state of California up and going and running. So let's make sure there we go. So this next slide is about the outcomes that we want to see from our 2023 campaign. And we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of this moment. We have had so many people that are involved in this process recently, and we want to make sure that we keep them engaged. So typically the contract campaign is a time that we, increase our membership. It's more important now in this cycle than it has been ever before. So we're going to return to basics, and you've heard us talk about this before. We need to get into our work sites, and we need to meet members where they are, whether it's in a virtual environment or in person. So we're not only going to make sure that we hear them, but that we actively listen to them and inspire and encourage them to take action in the work that we're doing. We know that our coworkers are frustrated. I know that all of you are frustrated. I'm frustrated. The state has left all of us, every single one of us, behind. And, financially, we're struggling. We are absolutely struggling. We need everyone, and I mean everyone, to take action in this contract campaign to understand that every member in this union, that we're collectively, we have power to demand change. Individually, we don't have that power, but collectively, we have power to demand change from our employer. That everyone has to understand that you have a voice at this bargaining table, that this contract isn't just the bargaining team contract, but it's all of our contracts. It's the membership's contract. So all of the work that we've done during the past pandemic, and right now they're reporting that we're in a triple pandemic, right? And so I'm hearing that there may be an opportunity, or there might be some discussion about bringing us back into masking up, or possibly making us stay indoors, right? So we have to understand, and they have to understand, that all the work that's performed by all of you is essential. And I know a lot of you are asking about the essential worker pay. Right now, the state's current proposal doesn't recognize that we are essential. It only recognizes a small minority of our members who kept California working during this pandemic. But we need to make sure that the state recognizes that it's not just a small portion, but it's the larger portion that helped California stay afloat. We need to make the state own that, own the fact that they seemingly do not value the totality of our membership, the totality of the work that we provide to make sure that all of our Californians are served. So during this contract campaign, unity is going to be a big theme in this contract campaign. It's going to flow through everything we do. So we need to come together for the sake of this contract. We need to make every single one of you moving in the same direction. We all have to move in the same direction. We all have to be unified under our common fight to move this contract. Because if we ourselves are unable to unite, why would we expect anyone else to join us in this fight? One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we get the community and our community partners and our allies aligned with us. But if we are not aligned, why would they want to join us? We can't do this without our allies. So remember, our contract is ultimately a bill that is passed by the state legislator, not just by Local 1000 in the voting on amendments. It has to go through our state legislation. So moving on to the additional outcomes that we have, we want to make sure that we are working to regain our political position at the Capitol. Now, when we weren't united, it sends a message to those that are watching that we are a little bit fractured here. We know we have to own that we are fractured. We need to come together. So our outcome that is important to me is that we are going to be seen as a force on the Capitol Hill, a united force, a force that will no longer be ignored or pushed aside. And many of us have known that we've been pushed aside for far too long. We need to speak to our non-members and help them understand that the value of being a member in our union is important. We need to help them understand and take ownership of our union, and knowing that belonging to this union is a priority in their life. But as you know, we continue to hear our members want results. They need to know, you need to know, that what all of us are doing to help ourselves move this contract along. So it's not just the bargaining team, but it's all of us pulling together to help ourselves move this contract. We're not really great at explaining that to everybody, so we need to do better at that. And now that I'm in this statewide position, I see every day all the work that goes on behind the scenes by all the staff, by all our member leaders, by our executive leaders, and our board. So I want us to do better at highlighting that, because everyone on this Zoom knows that without our membership, we have no leverage at the table. And I'm going to say that again. Without our membership, we have no leverage at the table. So I talked to you earlier about struggling, and we're struggling together. So this is going to be a huge fight. And we don't want to just ask the state for what we want. We want to demand it. So even if we did decide to go up and say, hey, state, this is what I want, do you think that they're going to give it to us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We have to demand it. And I think that this bargaining cycle is going to be one of the most difficult bargaining cycles to negotiate that we've ever seen. But I know if we all band together, that it's going to make light work. It make a heavy load light work. So lastly, I want to talk about the creation of structures that's going to foster member engagement from ratification and beyond. There's always a lot of excitement during the contract campaign, but as the contract campaign ends, we see a huge drop off after our agreement has been reached. So I want to engage us and challenge us to continue to work on that after the contract campaign is over, because we always seem to be rebuilding the will. But if we stay engaged and we continue to build that power between contracts, we don't have to start preparing at each and every contract cycle. So what do you guys think this number represents? 204 days. Well, let me tell you, that's the time, the approximate time before our contract expires. Our contract expires on June 30th of 2023. And our first day at the table probably is going to take place in between April or May of next year. So when you take these things into consideration, 204 days doesn't seem like a whole lot of time, does it? So it's really important to us that we all remember that in less than a little bit over a year, we're going to be at the bargaining table. And bargaining is the lens through which all of our current actions and all of our preparations should be viewed. So all of you have a critical role in building that worksite power for the bargaining teams, to give the bargaining team that leverage that we're going to need to be successful at this table. Without you, we can't do this. So we going to make sure that we begin our programs by making sure we have a vision and that we have outcomes. You heard that earlier. I showed you the vision and I showed you the outcomes. It's important that we understand and that we own this contract campaign vision and the outcomes, because in order for Local 1000 to win, in order for all of us to win a great contract, we all need to be unified and fighting together towards this common goal. Now, again, I told you earlier, unity is going to be a theme that's going to flow through this contract. So let me tell you a little bit about the timelines. I think most of you are really interested in knowing when bargaining is going to begin and what we're going to be doing in these timelines. We've actually broken it up to about 3 timelines. We're in the current timeline now, and it begins now through February. So what it is that we started our bunk trainings, and so far they've received about 2 trainings, and they're going to continue to receive additional trainings as we move into the next year, leading up to the first day in our bargaining cycle. You know that we're going to be launching the bargaining survey really soon. We're actually in the final phases of reviewing them and tightening it up so that we can start putting together the process to put it out there to you guys. The chairs have been working really, really hard on this, along with our research staff, to make sure that we're evaluating what questions are needed to identify the bargaining issues that you guys want to bring to us. So the survey is going to be electronic, and there may be a few paper surveys. And you can take these on the website. You can take them on your, phones, on your iPads, whatever it is that you have, that you actually have technology to access them. But you have to remember that you have to be a member to take the survey. You have to be a member to take the survey. So we need to make sure that you're signing up as many members as you can, because the more voices that we have, the more voices that are heard, and the more actions we take, the stronger our demands are going to be. The other thing that we're working on right now is our town halls. So as the bargaining cycle begins, our town hall may look a little differently than they have been in the past. We're going to be doing a mix of the virtual town halls and in-person town halls around the state. So, it's going to be hard to say in a post-pandemic world if the members, right, will turn out for a town hall. So this is one of the reasons why we're doing them virtually and in person. So they also may look just a little bit scaled down than they have in the past, to give you more of an option, an opportunity to be able to make your voices heard at the bargaining town halls. Okay. So our goal is to have more, to have the town halls and the bargaining survey done by the next SBAC, and the next SBAC is in February 25th to the 26th. And ideally, at that SBAC, we'll be able to present some of the details that you guys wanted to share with us from the surveys. Okay. So the second phase is for March through May. And this is the time that our entire bargaining unit, our bunk, comes out on full-time state release. So they're going to use this time to pour through all the notes that's taken at the town halls, the comments made in the surveys, and to meet with their units as a whole to synthesize the information and prioritize our issues. The bargaining team will also begin the process of drafting those proposals as we go through. Now, we don't have a first date set for bargaining with the state yet, but as I said earlier, it's probably going to be sometime between April and May. And your team is going to be bargaining each and every day. The work is tireless with long hours and lots of stress. So I'm asking everyone on this call today or on the Zoom today to please give them your support. Now, one way that you can show them support is by taking actions at your work site. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Our proposals have no leverage at the table without collective action. Without collective action in our work sites and everywhere that we can do them. Our goal is going to be to coordinate what's happening at the table on any given moment, on any given day, with the actions in the work sites across the state. But all of you have to be willing and able to take part in those actions. You have to be willing and able to build your team of activists. You have to be able to be willing to provide your information to create those communication networks. And that work has to start now. So we also can't forget about the May rate revise that will be coming up. The budget has major implications for the money set aside for our contract, and the May revise gives us an indication of where the governor's priorities are and how we can best align ourselves with them. So the last phase that we get through is phase 3. That's June through August. So we're in the middle of intense bargaining at this time. Our goal is to get the deal done within the legislative cycle, which means we've got to do it before the end of July. Mid-July is preferred, but definitely before the end of July. We're going to be ramping up our worksite actions, starting small and growing into larger and larger and larger actions, with more high-stake actions as we start the heavy push at the table around our financial proposals, right? So during this phase, we typically have a rally, and we might have a rally or we might do smaller scale actions around the state. Not quite sure how that's going to come out right now. But we need to assess our engagement level with our members along the way and meet them where they're at so we can make a good determination. Ideally, a tentative agreement will be reached by July so we can get the MOU bill moved through the legislature and begin ratification. Now, again, remember, our contract is a bill first, and then it's signed into law. So I want you to leave you, well, before I do that, I want to tell you that this is an aggressive timeline. It absolutely is. It may be ideal, it may not. We've seen before that bargaining can stretch out much longer than July. We've seen that before. We've been part of it before. And us not getting a deal done to December like we did in 2016, where we threatened to strike. And strikes have been something that's been an intense conversation as well, but want you to know that your bargaining team is also assessing that and looking and planning for that to be an alternative if we actually get to that point. So before I leave you today, I just want to say a good indication of the bargaining cycle look like for us is how the previous unions have been bargaining, right? So they've had 2.5% to 4% has been their general GSI increases. And based on what I'm hearing from all of you, that 2.5% to 4% is not going to be enough. That's not going to be acceptable. Absolutely not. So there's a person that was on the call, our DLC 703 President Jason Sandoval, and I'm going to steal this from him. He said 2% is for milk. It's not for a salary increase. It's not acceptable for us. So all of us need to break this pattern of what the state has set down before us. But how do we do that? If we're going to be able to break this pattern, and how much we break it by depends entirely on us, entirely on how we build actions and teams in our work sites, what we're going to be willing to do, how far we're willing to go, and how we are going to build and demonstrate our power, our political power and our union power. Now, I know we have a lot of work to do, but I know that we can do it if we all fight together and we all come together to make sure that we're marching towards this common goal. Now, I see a lot of hands up, but before I get to those hands and those questions, I'm going to show you one more slide. This is the bunk information. I've heard a number of people say that they don't know who's on their bargaining team, who their unit chairs are. This is where you can find that information. It is on our SEIU Local 1000 webpage. And if you type in this website address, it will take you to a drop-down menu on the left side. If you click on bargaining units, you can click on each individual bargaining unit and will tell you who is on your bargaining unit negotiating committee. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. How did I do? Did I get it right? Yes? Okay. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up to you guys. Again, I'm going to ask you to be respectful of each other. Remember, we are co-workers. We are united as one, and we all share a common goal. So I'm here to ask questions of you or questions for you. If you want to make a statement, I'm more than happy to hear your statement, but please be respectful. And also remember that we have a 2-minute time limit. So I'm going to ask the first person to unmute and ask their question. This looks like Samin Darabi.
Yes, hi. I my problem is it's not going to resolve with 2 minutes, but I need your help. If you can give me direct phone or your email to call you, because I am working in CDCR. I moved from SVSP to CMC. I lost $1,000 of my salary, and cost of living in this place, it's 1.5 than Salinas. So I would like to share my problem directly with you. If you can help me, please, and guide me, what should I do?
Absolutely. So let me just give you, so there is an email address that we have for any bargaining questions. Is bargaining 2020, bargaining at SEIU1000.org.
Yes.
My direct phone number is 510-557-9895.
9895. Let me repeat it to you. 510-557-9895.
Absolutely. And I also want everyone to take this number down, which is the Member Resource Center. That should be your very, very first call outside of talking to your stewards in your work sites to report any information, any actions, or request any assistance. The bargaining team normally pulls these records when they're looking at all of the information, preparing for bargaining, to determine what type of issues can we notice, can we see, is there any type of clusters that we need to work on that has not been reported in the surveys or in the town halls. So please, if you can, 866-471-7348 is the Member Resource Center. Always call them, but know that we are available if you need to reach us at any time outside of that number. So I look forward to getting your phone call, Simon, okay?
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So Fernando, I see you're there. I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, Ms. Irene, I'll make this quick. I know those 2 minutes go fast. The last gentleman that talked about one thing, and it is true, if we're going to have a good, really strong, worthy contract, please tell the governor, tell the legislature, stop closing our offices. Because really, if we keep losing offices, we're going to have people with long distance. They gotta live close to work and all, but that's not, to me, that's not enough. I care about my people, and I don't want them to go that far. So if we're going to have a contract, tell them to please stop closing offices. That's number one. And number two, don't wait for April and May, please. I mean, seriously, start like next year, once a month, January, February, March, April, May, all the way to July. Meet with them at least once a month. Don't stop. I mean, seriously, do not stop because like all of us are saying, what they're offering is unacceptable. We have to meet on at least on a monthly basis. I mean, and also 3, extend the deadlines for job stewards. Instead of putting like a certain deadline, just put it unlimited. So some of us can be job stewards and all. I mean, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you, Ms. Irene.
No problem. So Fernando, don't go off just yet. So when you say extend the deadline for job stewards,
In other words, because they send emails, but they give you like a deadline that you have to get these 25 signatures to be job steward, a certain deadline. I would like to ask that you take those deadlines out. That way we have enough time to, even though with our busy schedule, to try to get ourselves as job stewards.
Okay, I definitely will lift that up, but I will tell you that, in this environment that we're in lately, The 25 signatures is not a drop dead requirement. So if you're only able to get a few, like I do know that there are some departments that have like maybe 15 people in them. So definitely you're not going to get 25 signatures if only you have 15 people in your department.
Right.
So we're asking you to strive for 25 signatures. And if you can't get them, just go ahead and send them in with whatever you were able to get by that deadline. But I absolutely will lift that up to see if we can't extend those deadlines just a little bit more.
Got it. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much. So I see Phoenix. Phoenix, if you can go ahead, I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, Irene. Nice to meet you. Yeah, and thank you for keeping the closed captions on. I wanted to say beforehand, and the questions I had is that now we are receiving the telework stipends. So till how long will we keep receiving those telework stipend like? And because we all like working remotely, and we say it as work 3.0. So
Absolutely, Phoenix. I absolutely love working at home as well. Before I came to work for the state, I worked at home and absolutely loved it. Currently, the telework agreement is due to expire on June 30th, 2023 with everything else. So this will be one of the things that we should be negotiating for when we move to the bargaining table. Again, when you're completing those surveys or going to the town halls, please make sure that you're lifting up those things that are most important to you so that we can make sure that they get on the table. I'm sure that many of us want to make sure that that telework actually stays in and remains, especially the stipend. So I appreciate your comment. Thanks so much, Phoenix. Looks like I have Michael Friedman available. Hello, Michael. How are you doing today?
Hi, great. So I just had a few questions. One, can you that email address like that you just popped up on the screen for our local bargaining negotiator? Can you put that up again, because I wasn't, it's not, I can't find it on the site, and it would be nice to be able to and if I understand that correctly, that would be a person who would be in my area, or in representing however you define the area.
Yes, sir. What unit are you in, Michael?
What are my choices?
What's your classification?
Oh, AGPA.
Okay, so you're in unit 1. So
oh, right, yeah.
Yes, your bargaining unit chair would be Susan Rodriguez.
Okay.
And this address, when you put it in your website and it pops up, you will go to unit 1, and it will give you all of the names of the people that are your chair, your alternate chair, your vice chair, and all of the people that be on the bunk, and all those that are alternate bunk members.
Okay.
The contact information will also be there. All you have to do is click on the hyperlink, and you can send an email directly to your chair.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I really wanted to echo, I think, was what Fernando said about not waiting. You were talking a lot about us having to, get started early, and it depends on us. But it's just a regular rank and file member. What is it now? Like, I don't know any specifics. I mean, I know some of the things, but if I were to go to my coworkers like tomorrow, what do you want me to tell them about the contract negotiations, or about what we're demanding, or what we need to do?
So the first thing I would like you to share, Michael, is that they do need to be members. So if you have anyone around your vicinity that are not members, encourage them to become members. Again, that is where our power is. The second thing is that we are putting together what's called a regional organizing committee. And what that usually is a group of people that will come together to create contact action teams. So that as we are preparing, we start putting together what type of actions we want to do. And maybe you guys can share with us tonight what type of actions you'd like to see. For example, I gave you one action, which was purpling up. or standing in solidarity with unity breaks, which means that if you are taking a break, and we all are required to take a break, we all get 2 breaks during the day plus lunch. Maybe you do it as coordination, that everybody in your unit takes a break at one time, not just whenever we decided. So everybody at 3 o'clock, we're going to walk out together at 3:15 and take a break. There's nothing that the state can do because you are allowed to take a break. It's just the sheer force of everybody walking off the floor at one time makes a statement. And if you're all walking off the floor at one time in your purple shirt, that makes even a bigger statement. So it's those type of actions leading up to maybe something that's even bigger. I indicated something like a rally that we have done in the past. We actually had people come up to Sacramento. We had a day at the Capitol. We bussed people in, had a huge rally, and then we went back home. This time it may be a little bit different. Maybe there's regional rallies, maybe there's rolling rallies. So we're all thinking about different ways to get people engaged in this contract. But what I'm hearing you say, Michael, is you like to be involved in that process. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, quite possibly. You know, I'm more of the mind. I mean, I support all of those things. I mean, I'm more of the mind, though, from the aspect of you know, explaining to people. I mean, not in a patronizing way, but you know, spreading like the word of like, why should we take those actions? Like, what is it that you know, the union is doing for them so that they will, you know, feel the solidarity to go out and, you know, take a 15-minute break together, wear purple on Wednesday. I know a lot of those things are self-evident to a lot of us, but you know, I don't think they are to a lot of other people, especially, you know, non-members, of course, too, right? But even some of the people who are members, you know, I think there's a real sort of blasé kind of, you know, apathetic kind of, I mean, I don't have to tell you that. So I'm just wondering if there's a little bit of like, you know,
Well, let me
meat
give
or
you a little
beef
bit of
that-
an example.
Also,
I think it was 2016 contract. And you know, all my contract seasons are kind of blending together with me. But the mandatory overtime is what our nurses had been battling with for years. The state had passed some years ago that rule that said you cannot work nurses back to back, shift to shift. And that was a law, but they kind of exempted the state of California from that law. And so the nurses have been battling that for a long time. We've had some injuries with nurses working long shifts back to back. And so it was pretty much imperative that we move something. One of the actions that was done is they took pictures of all of the people that had been affected by working those massive amount of overtime hours that was mandated upon them, and put those around the walls with the bargaining team and the state sitting across from them. And they shared the stories of those people that had suffered injuries, indoor fatalities, that had long periods of time where they weren't at home with their families, and the things that they were doing. Just imagine the amount of stress working a shift back to back. And through those stories, it kind of moved the department in the way that we needed them to move. And for the first time ever, we were able to get the mandatory overtime language put into the contract that they were looking for. Now, I know that this time around, they're going to be going back through to try to shore up that language to be even stronger. But it was something, that action was something that broke the dam a little bit, right? There was another instance where we were working on a proposal for another classification, and they had coordinated where there would be phone calls that would be made to the labor relations officers. Those are the people that sit across the table from us and negotiate with us, and letting them know, well, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing. We don't like it. This is the reason why we want this proposal to be passed. And it had done so much that they ended up having to turn the phone off and possibly changing their phone number. So it's those type of actions that, when coordinated with the proposals that we're presenting at the table, have a huge impact on what we're moving. And so as we're going through this planning process, there will be a regional organizing committee that will be put together. And they should be in each region and widely enough and known widely enough that you guys will know who to contact in order to start planning those type of actions. Does that make sense, Michael?
Yeah, yeah.
Does
One
that-
last question. On that, are you guys allowed to contact us on our work emails, or I mean, I know that's sort of a granular thing, but
So here's my take on work emails. To set up worksite meetings, I don't have any problem doing it. However, there is a restriction for staff in contacting our members on the worksite emails. And the reason for that is because of the state owns those worksite emails. And sometimes information can be flowed through those emails that can have an adverse effect to the members. And we don't want to have that happen. And so that's one of the reasons why we do not contact people on state emails, especially the staff.
that makes
Now,
sense.
as we move forward, I would definitely lift up that concern and see if that's something that we can move away from at this time. But right now, it's still enacted. And so please, everyone that's on this call, make sure that you have your information updated with the local. And you can call the Member Resource Center, or you can access the SCIU webpage and says contact us and update your information there. But make sure we have all of your current email addresses, all of your current text, cell phone and phone information, and any other information that you would like us to have so that we can reach you on a consistent basis. Okay?
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome, Michael. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Richard Wake. I'm going to ask you to unmute and make a statement or ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Irene. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mr. Wake. How are you?
Pretty good. So it's more of a statement than a question, but just want to emphasize I'm 100% agree with engaging the members. Okay. I'm my work site is pretty small. I'm an AGPA in Bargaining Unit 1 at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing in Midtown Sacramento. Matter of fact, you came to lunch over there one time and met with the members, and when Ben Arriaga and a couple others were present, I think, or at least when Kevin Martinez was present, I think. But anyways, the point is that, even though I exclusively working from home, I go into the office 2, sometimes 3 days a week. I can't go through the entire building because I don't have time, but I always go around, say hi to everybody, hear their concerns. I'm actually representing about 3 different people now on some issues. So I'm routinely talking to members, regarding that stuff on a regular basis anyways. But, I work in a small department where there's roughly about, probably about 200 people. And there's about maybe 120, 130 represented people. But, over the past 2 months, I've recruited 7 new members. It doesn't sound like a lot for people that maybe work at Caltrans or Department of Healthcare Services or the DMV, but where there's 200 people, 7 new members is a considerable victory. And, I'm proud to say that I have the highest percentage of membership in 767. I was taking lunches to the members for quite some time. We had to stop that because we ran out of money until the next budget cycle. But, I'm still meeting with people and, just even the little things, show them that you care, walk through your office, talk to people, get some swag from your DLC president, or better yet, if you're not a steward, become a steward. I just chatted with some guy on Facebook in messaging. Matter of fact, it was on the SAU 1000 page, said, well, he's lost all hope. Well, I told him, I said, become a steward. Contact your DLC president, contact the NRC. He said, well, the other person left saying that the union wasn't worth anything. Well, that's not true. It's the little victories that makes this union strong. Like the ones that I get at my workplace that, the other, 50 whatever percentage of members don't see unless I bring it out to the public and tell them, okay? This union is built from the ground up. From the ground up. And, if you're not happy with something that's going on, and if you're a member, become a steward, engage your workplace. You are the change. That's why I became a steward. after the steward that I replaced retired. She twisted my arm to do it a little bit, but I agreed to do it. And, you know, I might be the most unpopular person in my building now with management, but I don't really care. I'm
right,
engaging the
so-
members and getting them active, and my work site is organized. And I would just encourage all of you to follow what Irene said and become a steward. Maybe you already have 1 or 2 stewards. Hey, it doesn't matter. Have 3 or 4. Become
All
a
right.
steward.
All
So
right,
that's,
Mr.
you know,
Wake, I think your 2 minutes were up a little while ago. I don't
okay,
think
I'm
we
sorry,
can
but
hear-
anyway, just
we can't
engage.
hear the alarm right now. I
I'm
had a
sorry.
text saying, can you hear the alarm? I'm like, no, I can't.
No,
So
well,
I
I'm just
do appreciate your
enthusiastic, you know?
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome, Irene. Thank you.
Charles, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself and make a statement or ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much for taking my call. I'm going to try to squeeze in this with for 2 minutes. So I'm already going over at the moment. Just a couple things that I had was, so what you've seen, you've talked about the private sector, and we've seen this. Okay, so we've got an 8% at least inflation rate that has increased. We've sat there for a year now when we got a 2.5% pay raise. And the private sector has fought and has gotten increased salaries. Particularly, so I am a nurse in CDCR, an RN. I've just seen my said coworkers on the private sector side that get up to 22% pay raise for RNs. We're losing people in this realm, and you know, Kaiser nurses are represented by an SEIU represented group. They got a 22% pay raise. How did they do that? They strike. And I'm going to get to that in a second, but I want to talk also about the essential pay. The essential pay, what seemed to have happened is the physicians got paid. And believe me, I was there on the front lines during the COVID, and it was the nurses that did the work in CDCR. All right. COs got paid, but then what happened was SEIU decided that, hey, we're going to go ahead and bring it across the whole state of the workers. Now, I'm not saying anything against other workers, but we've gotten nothing as essential workers in regards to registered nurses. That needs to be addressed by bargaining unit 17. What's interesting is last year in July, we had I'm not sure what year it was, 2020. We got a pay cut, right? 10%. The government presented a sidebar agreement.
Time has been reached.
Charles, go ahead and finish your last statement. The government reached a
They
sidebar
had a sidebar agreement, and they touted that there was a 97% or $97 billion surplus. Now we're listening to the government and saying that they have a 27% or $27 billion deficit. How is that looking for us to bargain? And I guess my last statement and last question that I actually would have is, the union's talking about having power, force, demand, and united. How is it that we can do that? Really, I understand you say about membership, but other than striking and saying, listen, we are not going to take this anymore, and we will leave the workforce, that speaks volumes other than just talking to them in regards to that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. You're absolutely right. We have been, as I opened up with, we've been left behind for a long time. There has been contracts that we had gotten no increases with, right? I know that 2% that we got just recently did not do a whole heck of a lot, but who knew when that was negotiated 3 years ago that we would be in the situation that we're in today? Nobody could foresee that.
But could we not have done a sidebar like they did? I apologize, but why couldn't we have done a sidebar like they did? They forced that 10% pay cut on us. We should have stood up and said, we demand another contract or at least a sidebar going into 2022, 2023.
Well, as you know, and I indicated earlier, there's been a little bit of turmoil that's going on with our local. And I definitely somewhat agree with you that we could have done something a little bit earlier. And maybe if we had been a little bit more proactive, we might have had a sidebar. Can't tell you, can't go back in the past and redo.
Right, of course.
I do know what we can do moving forward. And that is, to answer your question, showing strength, showing our power. Are there things that we can do outside of striking? Absolutely. We can have pickets all day. We can have informational pickets where we've shown up. And we had actually done that in 2016, where we did show up en masse at Cal HR and had a picket sign or picketing process around. Was it a strike? Absolutely not. But was it a show of power and strength? Yes. Could we do that even more at a larger scale? Absolutely, absolutely. Now, is strike off the table for us? Not totally, no. But you don't start off with the strike, but you do plan for the ultimate outcome of a strike. But I do want to ask everyone here, as we're talking about strikes, are we actually willing to do that? Are we prepared to do that today? If we were able to, and I understand because you want to come back, but I want everybody to understand a strike means you don't take vacation time. You don't get sick time. You don't get a monthly salary. Your health benefits may be in jeopardy. Your bonuses may be in jeopardy. Your differentials may be in jeopardy. So it's something that we really have to think about, because it's really easy to say, I'm ready to strike and I'm ready to walk out. But how long would that strike last? Are you able to cave in on day 2? Are you caving in on day 15? Are you able to go to day 60? Yes, there's a strike fund that's there, and strike funds are there for all unions that go out and strike. But I have to tell you, they don't cover their entire salary. It absolutely doesn't.
But again, I guess without the strike, I mean, honestly, and I understand you talk about doing different things. I really like to understand what power you actually think the union has without demanding something, because I've seen the governor throw a contract at us and said, here you go, take it or leave it. This is it. And we kind of negotiated here and there, but what did we get? 7% for 3 years? Mm-hmm. What power do we really have other than that?
Right,
Sorry.
No problem. I appreciate you. So the power that we have, and I'm going to go on to another person, Charles, just to let you know. The power that we have is the power that we demonstrate. If we don't show up, that's the strength of our power. So when we're coming to you, and again, we're going to be planning these actions, but when we come to you and we say, we need 55,000 of you to be on the phones and jamming up someone's phone line, that means 55,000 people have to stop what they're doing, whatever they're doing. It takes 2 minutes to dial a phone number and pull it through. If we ask 55,000 people to show solidarity in their work sites by taking a unity break, we need 55,000 people to do that. I absolutely will tell you that managers look at us and report what's going on in our work sites. I've seen it happen. Most of us have seen it happen. I've seen a few people that are nodding here saying, yeah, that's absolutely right. When there is a rally, whether it's a big rally or small rallies, show up in force. Show up in force. So you can take 15 minutes out of your day, take a little bit of a lunch break, whatever it is, to show up and be those numbers. It's those things that we can do outside of a break that shows how we are all united and working towards one to move this contract. And I know it seems like it's something that we always say and always talk about, but it's absolutely true. It's tried and true. Those people that you see out that are out there now, they didn't just get directly to strikes. They had all kinds of things that was going on before they got to a strike. And that's what we have to plan for. That's what we have to prepare for. And that's what we have to participate in to show our strength. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next person. I'm sorry. I think this is Nicholas Clark. Nicholas, if you can go ahead and move forward.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing really fine, Nicholas. I have a little
so
bit of
I'll
a
do my best to try
break in
to.
your- Your
Oh, can
connection
you
is
hear me
breaking up.
better?
It's breaking up a
Is
little
it-
bit.
How about now? Is it any better?
Little better, yes.
Okay, I'll do my best here, and I'll do my best to try to make some points, some thoughts I have real fast and try to keep it quick. Consider them. I see us going. It's I like other people said, the past of the past, but there was this big surplus, but now I forecast we may be going into recession. And I just want to point out that this is from a while ago, but basically when we were back in the Great Recession, there was a study I read Berkeley about our California state workers overpaid, and basically it was coming, looking at all the factors and saying that no, they're not, and showing it from the economic perspective and scientific perspective that basically we're underpaid compared to private sector. So I think Charles maybe at my show, our private sector work cohorts or colleagues rather. And when you look at the BLS inflation calculators, it's the government's BLS Bureau of Labor Statistics. So the federal government's an official source. It actually shows about a 15% inflation between January 2020 to right now, or October 2022. So then about basically $100 then is the same as $115 now. So basically, as we all know, that means that if we don't get at least 15% of an increase, we're basically at 15%, we're treading water. We're not making any headway in gains or anything. We're just staying at the same point as if we were back in January 2020. So I just wanted to put that out there. And two more thoughts really fast was one, when considering, this is feedback, when I have a negotiating table, please no more deductions such as the retirement health insurance deductions that came about. I understand those were needed, or they need to be paid for, but the state can pay for them. Otherwise, that basically just undermines the any gains that we make in our
Time has been
negotiations.
All right.
Okay, and then last thing I just want to say was another thing that's very, very, I think, important to remember is perhaps thinking about personal leave increases, because those can be almost more important. I know people have different probably feelings about this, but more important than compensation. Those can be very helpful for people for a number of reasons. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
so
listening.
much, Nicholas. I appreciate your comments. And yes, you are absolutely right. We're going to try our very level best to make sure that we're moving things along. And there are various opinions about the retirement healthcare. I will just share a little bit about my story. My mother has actually retired from the county, and her retirement healthcare is nowhere where it needs to be. It's not even close to what we have. And so she cannot get the dental coverage or the healthcare coverage that she needs because she does not have a robust retirement healthcare system. And so I'm ending up having to help her, myself and my family, out of our own personal pockets to make sure that she has the healthcare coverage that she has in her later retirement years. She doesn't want to go to work. We don't want her to go to work. Her health is important to her and health is important to us. And so we have to chip in where we can. So like you said, there's various different opinion about the retirement healthcare, but we will definitely take a look at it. It is something that is negotiable in our bargaining cycle at this time. Whether it can be lowered, where it can be increased, don't know yet. But again, fill out those surveys, come to those town halls, make sure that it's widely known, deeply felt, and it will definitely be placed on one of those priorities as we go through and assess which ones we're going to be doing for the bargaining cycle. That will be one of the things that can be considered. And I have to tell you about the personal leave. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a controversy, but those additional 16 hours that I got in relation to some of the money that we lost, trying to mitigate that, that actually helped me. And that's because, again, my mother had illness. And so my days were used up, and those PLP days helped me actually cover my time and my paycheck so that I could help her. So there's various opinions about that, and we all have different points of views about some of the things that we're talking about right now. So I do appreciate you bringing those three things up, and we'll definitely make sure that we put them to the bargaining team. I do have people taking notes of the things that we're discussing today. And so again, don't rely on them being addressed here, but make sure you fill out the surveys and come to those town halls and also lift that up as well. So thank you so much. Hold on just one second.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I maybe missed it. Which survey are you referring to? I
The
apologize.
survey, so we have bargaining surveys that we do each and every bargaining cycle. Our team is at the moment in the process of putting the final touches on those surveys. Those surveys should be going out sometime the middle of January, no later than February. So they are coming. Fantastic. All right, so Ms. Denise Clemens, you are up next.
Hi there. I'd like to throw something out there too, and that is, we've gone through the most outrageous pandemic ever, and it's played so much on mental health. And what I don't see the contract covers is when people have mental health issues, especially during this time from 2020 to current. It seems like a lot of the mental health issues have been handled in a disciplinary way to members. And so what I would suggest is that negotiate that between this time, so many families have had to restructure their lives around the schools, about closing schools, single parents having to try to figure out how to handle all this stuff, bouncing all over the place. And then mental services not even being nearly available to anybody, especially, through every healthcare I know has had a challenge. And then people have lost family members due to COVID. There's been so many things that have happened in the mental health arena that I feel is just totally lacking with state service, being able to get those services. And people have lost their jobs. Members have lost their jobs due to mental health issues. So what I would propose to put on there for CalHR to revisit anybody that's been terminated during this pandemic time and allow them to regain state employment in the future when things maybe have been addressed where they've been able to get their lives back on track. Right now, you get terminated from state service, you don't get that opportunity to get back into state service. And yet mental health has been a huge crisis and there's been no help, and members, state employees have lost their jobs with with the sacrifice of not being able to get back on. And I just feel strongly that we need to have something in our contract to allow for an exception during this pandemic timeline to regain state service and not be penalized in that fashion.
Thank you, Denise. I have to tell you that the mental health issue is really close to my heart on the things that I do. Personally, it has affected me over the last 6 years, and I deal with it on a daily basis. And it's really important to me that we have the mental health coverage in our health plans to help us along the way. I'm not ashamed to say that, sometimes we all need help. And having that ability to seek out that help is essential to making sure that you can continue your livelihood as well as continue working and interacting in the public, right? Along with your workers. Now, I work for the unemployment office, and the stories that I've heard come across during the pandemic of the people that were suffering mentally, financially, exhausted, stressed. It is more than palpable that mental health has to be a top priority for any organizations, let alone the state of California. So I do appreciate your comments, Denise. I will make sure that we actually look at this. Most of our health benefits are devised by CalPERS. And maybe we start looking at some ways to partner up with CalPERS and try to get those things at the next time we negotiate. So I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving on to David Patoli. David, if you can go ahead, there you go.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Just gonna have a few questions. Just want to sound them off before the 2 minutes. So first question is, has a chief negotiator been selected? And then also before this meeting, we were told to email comments, questions to an email address. I'm just curious, when will those questions or comments be answered? And then also bargaining kind of strategy. I've asked numerous times on the Wednesday night meetings, and every time Bill has kind of come back with, we can't share that on an open forum. So the only way I know to communicate here with SEIU is on these open forums. So if it can't be shared on an open forum, how do members get
The
information
that they need
on
about the
yeah
bargaining strategy,
yeah, bargaining strategy, what happened in the past, what happened in 2016, what we did right, what we did wrong. Have no idea. We always just end up finding out the end result and never knew how that went. And then at what point, I know you put out a timeline, a timeline
Mhm.
of different slides. So at what point do we figure out who's on the Cal HR bargaining team, who's sitting across the table from us? And then I know you mentioned bargaining surveys. When will we see the results of the bargaining surveys after they're completed, so we know what other members are thinking?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, David. So let me see if I get all the answers or all the questions down. So you asked about the chief negotiator. You asked about the Cal HR team. You asked about the bargaining strategy. And you asked about the questions that were submitted in response to tonight's call. Did I miss anything? David, did I miss anything?
Sorry, I muted myself after I was done. I think just the only thing is, when will we, the members, see the results of the bargaining surveys?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can go ahead and answer those. So, chief negotiator, the bargaining team, the bargaining unit chairs actually got together around December 1st, I believe it was, it might have been December 2nd, and held an election to select the chief negotiator. I am happy to say that chief negotiator was selected was me. I am now your vice president of bargaining and also your chief negotiator at the table. And so
Okay, great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I will be sitting across the state from the Cal HR team and having those conversations with the state and representing all of our represented members or employees for the state of California, along with our bargaining unit chairs. Now, you talked a little bit about the Cal HR team. We do not select who is on the Cal HR team. Just like they don't select who sits across from them, we do not have to get the ability to select who sits across from us. Normally, it is most of the labor relations officers, the Department of Finance, and a couple of legal attorneys that are sitting across the state from us, across the seats from us. Do we know exactly who those people are going to be? Not at this time. We do have meetings with Cal HR, and that will be one of the things that we will be discussing is when bargaining begins, and who will be their chief negotiator. But at this time, we do not have those details for you, and we probably won't know until we actually start bargaining sometime in April and May. The survey results, those will be given from the town halls and the survey results. We're striving for at the next XPAC, which is February 25th and 26th, I believe, to give that information and that feedback to all of the members. And so that's when that information will be shared. I do believe that there will be some type of communication as well that will be put out to the members as to what has been synthesized and ferreted out. The bargaining strategy, we're going to start pulling these meetings and having them be sort of a little bit more restricted. But where we start talking about the bargaining strategy in detail is at those town halls. And so when you come to the town halls, if it's virtually or in person, we will start talking details about what that strategy is, how we're going to attain it, what the bargaining units are going to be looking at and doing and moving forward. So if you have any suggestions, you can go ahead and submit those suggestions to me at bargaining@sciu1000.org. And in response to those questions that were submitted, did not have the opportunity to review all the questions. There were several of them that came in. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to just to have the conversation and get things out today. But at our next meeting, we will have another one. We will definitely go through and have those answers for you. Hopefully at that time, maybe we may have the bargaining unit chairs that can be in attendance as well and be able to answer those questions for you as well. Okay.
Okay, great. I have just one small follow-up question. So with the previous negotiations that were done, previous contracts, we saw that there were SSAs and things like that, which is great. I'm equally happy for every state worker to get whatever raises they can.
Mhm.
So I guess that goes back to kind of what prompted those raises as opposed to not maybe any other classifications getting raises. So I'm just curious how that kind of worked out with the past history of previous contracts. So I don't know whom I would ask to find that out, but I'd be interested in speaking or talking about that.
I am so sorry, David. Repeat your question one more time.
So with the previous contracts, there were SSAs and things that were done for certain classifications, which is great. And I'm just curious how that came about in the actual negotiations that, classifications A, B, and C were able to get SSAs. So kind of like what I was mentioning, like, hey, what we did right, what we did wrong on previous contract negotiations.
Okay, I will tell you generally overview. What happens is the bargaining unit get together with their unit negotiating teams, and they have conversations about which classifications need to go up. And most of them come from the recruitment and reclassification. But then there are others that comes from the surveys that you guys are submitting in, or the town halls that are being submitted, plus various data that is pulled in from the research department to look at all of those different avenues. Classifications are put up, and then the state and the union then goes through and they have a negotiation on them. Sometimes a majority of them get passed through and sometimes they don't. But it's all, again, the result of the power that we have at the bargaining table and making sure that we are demanding what we need to demand to make those salary increases happen. I can give you more details as we go into bargaining at the town halls, but at now that's just a general overview. So I will tell you that someone has just brought to my attention that I have been calling names out of order. So I do apologize for those people. Apparently I did not have the participants view up. And so if your name was not called in order, please forgive me. I am learning this as we go along. So now that I have the participants view up, hopefully I will be calling them as in order as they raise their hands. So the next person that I see is John Torek. John, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you, Irene, and congratulations on your election. That is a tough job to be chief negotiator for 95,000 represented workers, and I look forward to working with you on that. So couple things and then a question. First of all, somebody wise once said that nobody or no one can do everything, but everyone can do something.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing everyone can do is look to your left and look to your right and ask those people, are you a member? The key to our bargaining strength and the key to our capacity to move towards getting ready to strike is to have a large proportion of membership. If you look, for example, at UTLA, the teacher strike in Los Angeles, my understanding is they had something like 95% membership or 90% membership and a 95% vote of those members to go out on strike. It takes a lot of work over a lot of time, building up step by step in every work site, in every DLC to get to that point, and we are nowhere near there. So my own view is the only reason to organize our fellow workers is to get prepared to go on strike, to be able to demand the things that we need. And all of the things that we are discussing in terms of tactics, the purpling up, the solidarity breaks, everybody walking out at the same time wearing purple, whatever, are things that help to build unity. And we also want to be building structure, so it works like teams. So my question is specifically about what's the status of geographical pay differential in the present contract negotiation?
Don, thank you for that question and thank you for that statement. I appreciate that. We are not currently in contract negotiations regarding GeoPay. The GeoPay article that is in there is due to expire on June 30th, 2023. And, you know, in this time, I just want people to think about, is GeoPay still something that is necessary moving into now that we are in a virtual world, that maybe there's an opportunity to, you know, reassess where you're living so that you can live in a different area. I don't know. It's just a question I'm throwing out there. Not saying that we're not going to look at GeoPay, but it may be something that we now need to look at a little differently as we're moving through the next contract season. But if many people feel that GeoPay needs to stay in our MOU, that it needs to be shored up, which I absolutely agree that it does, since from the last bargaining cycle, it did not cover the territories that we needed it to cover. For example, the Bay Area or Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland, you know, Los Angeles, some areas that are really high cost of living areas that GeoPay can actually help and help move us along. So, you know, there may be other things that we're looking at as well. Maybe there's some bills that can be passed about housing. You know, maybe that would help for government workers. Don't know. Thinking about outside the box. And, you know, when you guys think about this stuff in our next bargaining call, come back and if you can have some suggestions as some ways that we can shape some of the articles that you'd like to see put before the state. And we can have that conversation as well. Thank you so much. All right, so moving on to, let's see. Mataz Ramadan is who I have next. Mataz, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can, Mataz.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Well, I just wanted to add one thing, that I work for EDD with the state disability insurance side, and I can advise you that a lot of people in that department actually have not been wanting to enroll with the union, because for the last 5 to 8 years, they've been actually battling with EDD HR to be reclassified from a boutique classification to staff service analyst. And I've been advised as well, I personally can vouch that every time we've had a union meeting before COVID, we would tell the union rep, this is what we're looking for. And then all of a sudden they say, we've been never advised that this is what we need to get done, or no one's ever told us this. So I can tell you that one of the big battles we would like to see, and I have advised everyone as well to email the union regarding that we would like to see reclassification from a boutique classification to an actual legitimate title like staff service analyst. So that way it helps us for promotional growth. And just like you, because I remember you said you work for unemployment, you know, we were pretty much one of the departments that was hit the hardest, people not knowing the difference between unemployment, disability, like one of the other people just said, mental health breakdowns, people losing their jobs, you know, and so we were bombarded, yet we were never classified even as essential. Granted, we're working from home, but a lot of us were working overtime. I personally assisted with unemployment overtime to help with their call logs. And even now, we're just facing a lot of issues. Like now they're throwing down AGPA and SSA work at us, but they're not even trying to reclassify us as analysts and throwing more work on our desk, and it's just kind of
Time has been
overwhelming.
reached.
Sorry, just kind of overwhelming that we pretty much were hit the hardest, yet we're not getting any kind of like positive feedback or anything to be pushed forward in the right direction, as far as just trying to get some assistance to be reclassified, because now we're doing an actual staff service analyst work, but we're not categorized as analysts in the department size.
Okay, I appreciate your comments, Marcos, and I do have the emails that were sent in. And I think what we might be interested in doing is possibly having a call like this to talk about reclassification and what that actually is and how we actually go about getting it done. Reclassification is not a short-term process. It is a long-term process. And from all of the reclassifications that I have been associated with or involved in, it usually takes anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 years for reclassification to come up. So let's have that deeper conversation about what a reclass is and how to go about getting that reclass at our next bargaining call. It could be, we're looking at maybe doing these every other week, every week, once a month. We'll determine how that is, okay? So for now, it's 7:30. We did say from 6 to 7:30. I have stayed over a little bit. If it was just me that was on this call and didn't have staff that has family that they need to adhere to, I would absolutely stay. Please look for the next meeting notice regarding the bargaining conversations and calls. We will have these again. I want to say thank you, everybody, for your respect of each other. And we will have these conversations again. If you need me, reach out to me. I gave you all my phone number. And if there's a question that you want to ask and you weren't able to get it asked here, please send it to bargaining@ciu1000.org. All right, everybody, have a great night. Talk to you soon.